Let's play a game. Give me a thumbs up or thumbs down to each of these statements, and let's see how we compare. I have a hidden talent. I have a bad habit. I've never fallen in public before. I've gotten a really bad haircut. I have a few insecurities. I've never seen a Marvel movie. And lastly, I've never compared myself to others. Admit it. You hesitated to answer some of those questions until you saw how everyone else was responding. It's okay. We've all compared ourselves to others at one point. Have you ever found yourself wondering about the kind of career you're going to have someday, like a famous musician, or a successful producer, or wealthy doctor, or business person? Today, I will help you focus less on what you think you don't have, so you can see what you already have. Usually, when we hear someone has a past, it's not a good thing. It means they've got baggage or secrets. But we all have a past. Your past is a history. You have a history, and your history is a part of you. Sometimes we don't own to our past because our story is too boring or painful. Our story is too messy or too ordinary, and we want someone else's story. When I was younger, I was known to cause drama and was known as troublesome and became argumentative as I grew up. But people refused to talk to me because of what they heard about my past. What they didn't understand was that my past didn't follow me to where I am now. In the book of Exodus, read about a man named Moses. Here's a quick summary of Moses' story. God's people, the Hebrews, were enslaved by God's people, the Hebrews, were enslaved by the nation of Egypt. Moses was a Hebrew baby born to Jewish parents living in Egypt. When Moses was born, Pharaoh ordered all male Hebrew babies to be drowned in the Nile River because he feared that the Hebrew slaves would revolt against him. Moses' mom was able to keep Moses safe for a couple of months, but to save his life, she placed him in a basket in a shallow part of the Nile River and waited to see what would happen. Pharaoh's daughter found Moses and took him in as her own. Moses grew up in Pharaoh's palace knowing that he was an adopted child and probably had a stutter. One day, Moses saw an Egyptian soldier beating a Hebrew slave. Overcome with a sense of injustice, Moses murdered the man to protect the man who was a slave. Then he ran away, fleeing the country. Although Moses' past was pretty exciting and interesting, it was painful too. Maybe some of Moses' stories sound familiar to you. Maybe you resonate with his story of adoption, or his stutter, or his angry outburst. Or maybe none of Moses' stories sound familiar to you. Maybe your childhood story, your family story are all so far pretty average. Whether you think you share any similarities with Moses or not, here's one thing I think we can all agree on. Sometimes we run from our past. Maybe sometimes you're ashamed of your family or wish you had different childhood, wish you had different skills, friends, or opportunities, or maybe you're haunted by something that you did as a kid or something that was done to you. God was about to show Moses that he had value, and so did his past. The boring parts, the challenging parts, the good parts, and the in-between parts. God was going to show Moses that no part of his past had to be wasted. God can take every part of our past and use it for good. God wanted Moses to understand that God can restore and redeem even our biggest mistakes. If Moses could have seen into the future, he might have been inspired by a man named Saul, also known as Paul. Paul was responsible for the torture, imprisonment, and death of many people, but went on to receive the grace and forgiveness of Jesus. 1 Timothy 1:15 reads, "Here is a true statement that should be accepted without question. Christ Jesus came into the world to save sinners, and I am the worst of them." Like Moses, we must understand that we don't have to run from our past. We can find joy in the good parts and ask God to redeem the rest. You have a past, and your past is valuable because it helps shape who you are today. But the ugly or disappointing parts of your past don't have to define who you are in the future.